Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most passengers use maybe 3 of the perks they're actually entitled to on a cruise, and cruise lines are perfectly happy keeping it that way. I spent 14 years watching thousands of guests leave money and comfort on the table simply because nobody told them what to ask for. I'm ranking the 17 hidden perks I saw work best, starting with the good ones and building to the one I'd never skip. Number 17. Quiet lounges tucked away from the main deck. Every ship has 2 or 3 spaces built specifically for people who want silence, not signage that actually says so. A forward observation room with panoramic windows and nobody in it. A ship library that's been there since day one and gets maybe a dozen visitors all week. A coffee corner past an unmarked stairwell that most passengers never even notice exists. I watched guests wander past these doors for a full 7-day sailing, assuming they were staff only or some kind of restricted area, when they were open to every single passenger the entire time. These spaces usually have better views than the main pool deck, and they are almost always air-conditioned, comfortable, and completely free. Some ships even rotate quiet background music or leave complimentary coffee stations running in these rooms specifically because so few people find them. Walk the ship on day 1 and open every unlabeled door you pass, because that habit alone finds you space most guests never see for the rest of the cruise. This next one turns an entire day into your own private ship. Number 16. Staying on board during port days instead of getting off at every single stop. With most passengers ashore exploring a destination, the pool, the buffet, and guest services empty out almost completely. Entertainment staff still have to run their full schedule regardless of how many people show up, and I've personally seen cocktail-making classes and dance lessons turn into near-private sessions for the handful of guests who stayed aboard. Specialty restaurants will sometimes offer sample appetizers to anyone who wanders in during a quiet port afternoon, simply because the staff would rather serve someone than stand around an empty dining room. I've also seen photographers and spa staff use these slow hours to offer free trial sessions, since there's simply no line and no pressure to move guests through quickly. Skip just one port on your itinerary, and you'll understand exactly what I mean the moment you see how different the ship feels. Here's one that vanishes if you don't move fast enough. Number 15. The Embarkation Day Spa Open House. Spa teams open their doors on day 1 and let anyone walk through, tour the thermal suite, sample products, and sometimes even get a free mini massage or a personal training consultation. I watched hundreds of guests walk right past this event over the years because it wasn't printed anywhere obvious in the daily planner or the app, buried instead under vague language like special event. Some ships throw in raffles for spa credit, small bottles of product, or a complimentary glass of something sparkling just for showing up and listening to the pitch. I've seen guests walk away with a full-size product sample worth more than they expected simply because they asked a question during the tour instead of staying quiet. Ask at the spa desk within your first hour aboard, because by day 2, this offer disappears completely and doesn't come back for the rest of the sailing. Now here's the smarter version of that same idea. Number 14. Spa treatments booked on port days instead of sea days. Prices quietly drop when the ship empties out, sometimes 30 to 40% below the brochure rate, because treatment rooms sit completely empty while everyone's off exploring the destination. I process these bookings constantly during my years at the desk, and the guests who waited until a port day to book always paid noticeably less for the exact same service as the guests who booked on day 1 out of pure excitement. Some spas will even throw in a complimentary add-on, a scalp massage, or a product sample, just to keep their schedule full during those slow hours. I always told guests the same thing. If your itinerary has a full sea day and a port day, book the treatment for the port day every single time. Ask directly about port day pricing when you check in with the spa, because it's rarely posted anywhere you'd naturally look. This next freebie hides in plain sight, right next to the gym. Number 13. The sauna included in your fare. Most ships have a basic sauna sitting right next to the fitness center that costs absolutely nothing, completely separate from the paid thermal suite that everyone assumes is the only spa amenity available. I lost count of how many passengers spent an entire week thinking every single spa feature required an upfront payment. When a free sauna was sitting behind a door, they walked past every single day on their way to the treadmill. Some cruise lines quietly extend free thermal access to loyalty members without ever advertising it, so it's worth asking your steward or the spa desk if your status unlocks anything extra. I've watched guests discover this free sauna on the final sea day of the cruise and immediately wish they'd known about it since embarkation. Walk through the changing room door near the gym before you write off the spa entirely as something only suite guests can enjoy. Number 12. Off-menu dishes and extra courses in the main dining room. Chefs will cook simple items that aren't printed anywhere on the menu, and waitstaff will happily bring you a second appetizer, a taste of 2 different mains, or a completely custom plate if you simply ask politely. I watched guests treat the printed menu like a locked contract for an entire 7-night cruise when the kitchen had been flexible the whole time and nobody had ever told them so. This works especially well for allergy-friendly requests, kids' meals, and simple classics like plain grilled chicken or pasta that aren't listed but are almost always available on request. I've seen entire tables order double desserts on the last night simply because one person asked and the whole table followed. Just say what you're actually craving and let your server tell you what's possible before you settle for whatever's printed in front of you. Specialty restaurants play the exact same game during the quiet hours. Number 11. Free tastings from specialty restaurants on slow afternoons. Walk into a half-empty specialty venue in the middle of the day and show real, genuine interest in the menu, and staff will often bring out small sample plates hoping you'll book a table for dinner later that evening. I saw this happen dozens of times over the years, guests walking away with what amounted to a genuine tasting menu and zero obligation to actually book anything afterward. It costs the restaurant almost nothing to give away a handful of sample bites during their slowest hours, and it earns you food that's normally locked behind a cover charge you'd otherwise have to pay in full. The best time to try this is right after lunch service ends when the venue is staffed but empty. This next one is buried in the coffee counter, not the dining room. Number 10. Free pastries and giveaways tied to specific times of day. Coffee shops on many ships quietly include a pastry with certain drink orders, and shops around the ship run short giveaway windows for charms, liquor tastings, or a glass of something sparkling that nobody advertises loudly. I watched regulars claim these constantly, showing up right when the promotion started, while first-timers assumed every single item in the display case cost extra and walked straight past. These windows are usually posted only on a small chalkboard or a handwritten sign near the shop entrance, never in the main app. Ask what's included with your order before you reach for your wallet, because the answer surprises far more people than you'd expect. Now we're getting into the perks that actually follow your loyalty status. Number 9. Loyalty and booking perks that never get announced out loud. Reaching a certain status tier or booking through the right travel agency quietly triggers extras like a bottle of wine waiting in your cabin, free laundry credit, or an invitation to a private lounge with drinks and canapés included in the price you already paid. I've watched 2 passengers on the exact same sailing receive completely different treatment, purely because one of them asked what came with their status, and the other assumed nothing extra was owed to them. Separately, if your fare price drops after you've already booked, ask about a price adjustment, because that alone can hand you real onboard credit that most passengers never think to request. I personally processed dozens of these adjustments for guests who simply happened to check pricing again after booking. Your cabin itself is holding out on you too. Number 8. Asking exactly what comes with your cabin category. Higher categories often include unlisted extras, upgraded bedding, better toiletries, priority laundry service, and nobody explains any of it unless you specifically push for the details during check-in or your first conversation with your steward. I had guests in perfectly standard cabins discover perks they technically already paid for as part of their fare simply by asking their steward one direct question instead of assuming their room came with nothing extra. Say it plainly to whoever's in front of you. What perks come with this specific cabin type on this specific ship? That single sentence has personally unlocked more value for guests than almost anything else on this entire list. And once you know that question, your steward becomes your best resource on the ship. Number 7. The full list of items your steward can actually bring you. Mattress toppers, extra or firmer pillows, cooling gel pillows, small personal fans, sewing kits, extra wine glasses, baby gear, hypoallergenic bedding. It is all sitting in a storeroom cart waiting for someone to simply ask for it. I watched one woman get a mattress topper delivered within 20 minutes of boarding because she asked immediately, while her neighbor waited 3 full days and got absolutely nothing, because the limited stock had already run out by then. Ask for everything you might realistically need within your first hour aboard, framed as one simple, specific request rather than a long list of separate demands scattered throughout the week. Stewards also know things the daily planner conveniently leaves out. Number 6. The hidden schedule of onboard promotions. Cabin stewards often know exactly which day laundry runs at a discount or when the spa is planning a surprise giveaway, sometimes weeks before any of it gets printed anywhere a guest can actually see. I've had guests time their entire laundry bag around a quiet tip from their steward and save real, noticeable money doing it instead of paying full price earlier in the week out of impatience. Ask your steward directly whether any promotions are coming up that week, because they usually know before guest services does, and long before it ever shows up in your daily planner. That same relationship pays off the moment you step off the ship too. Number 5. Real port safety knowledge from crew who have actually been there dozens of times. Stewards and crew rotate through the same ports for months, sometimes years, picking up honest first-hand intel that never makes it into an official excursion brochure or a printed port guide. I have heard crew quietly steer their favorite guests away from overpriced taxi stands and toward the exact beach or cafe that locals actually use, simply because that guest took 30 seconds to ask instead of assuming the ship's official guide was the only source of truth. Ask casually, treat crew like real people with real knowledge, and most of them will tell you far more than any brochure ever will. Building that same rapport pays off again on the very last morning of the cruise. Number 4. Getting quietly moved into a faster disembarkation group. Stewards can nudge certain guests into an earlier exit line when there's a genuine reason behind the request, a tight flight, a medical need, a real-time crunch that actually matters. I've personally coordinated this for guests who communicated their situation clearly and had made my job noticeably easier throughout the entire week leading up to that final morning. It's not a paid package you can buy at guest services, it's a favor, and it's earned entirely through the kind of guest you've chosen to be for the previous 6 or 7 days. Some perks skip the disembarkation line entirely and put you somewhere you didn't expect. Number 3. Getting invited into suite-level spaces without ever paying suite prices. I've personally waved guests into deck parties and lounges technically reserved for suite passengers simply because they'd built a real relationship with staff over the week or shown up consistently for the right onboard events. Some of these areas are barely signposted at all, So the vast majority of guests self-select out of spaces they were technically allowed to enjoy the entire time without anyone ever stopping them. Attend the events, talk to the staff like people instead of employees, and you'd be genuinely amazed how often that invisible line quietly moves for you. And once staff genuinely like you, even the bridge isn't completely off limits anymore. Number 2, getting a bridge tour or a full behind-the-scenes walkthrough of the ship. These used to be far more common and got locked down hard over the years for security reasons, but I've personally seen security managers grant a quiet visit to guests who showed genuine curiosity and asked at exactly the right moment during a calm sea day. It's rare, it's never guaranteed no matter how politely you ask, and it almost never happens for someone who simply demands it at the front desk like it's owed to them. Ask early in the cruise, ask politely, and let real, obvious interest do the talking instead of entitlement. And this brings us to the one perk that outranks every single item on this entire list. Number 1, an invitation into the crew bar itself. Every crew member I ever worked alongside could sign one guest into that bar for a single night, and almost no passenger on any sailing I ever worked even knows that rule exists in the first place. I've personally watched confident guests who treated crew like actual human beings all week get quietly waved through an unmarked door into a completely different world from the one they'd paid for on their cruise ticket. It's not something you can request at a desk or find listed anywhere official. It's something you earn by being exactly the kind of guest crew genuinely want to bring along with them at the end of a long day. Out of everything I witnessed in 14 years on those ships, nothing else on this list came remotely close. You don't need all 17. Pick the ones that fit your next cruise and ask on day 1. Like and subscribe for more.